And my name is Karen Smith Frazier, and welcome to episode 31 of the Karen Smith Frazier podcast, where I help women who are struggling with feeling stuck, feel like they are challenged by making a change. And I help them move from feeling that way to feeling fulfilled and motivated to go after their own goals. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk a little bit about perspective, but before that, I just wanted to welcome those who are tuning in for the first time and just share a little bit of my story. I welcome you first time, and I welcome back those who are returning, and welcome from Jacksonville, Florida, and Strong Island, New York. Welcome, welcome. My, I um, For my groupies, you know the story, but I just wanna share a little bit, about some of the changes that brought me to where I am today, given this, podcast. I'm a wife, a mother, I worked as a nurse for over 30 years, and my last stint was as a school nurse and in a well-respected school district. I was well respected at my job. I got a lot of positive feedback. In other words, you could pretty much say that I had it made. Yet something just was not sitting right for me. I felt unsettled, and I ignored that feeling for quite a while. I knew there was something in me that was calling me to something different, something greater, and I couldn't ignore it much longer. I knew that in my heart. So after, heading to a, meeting after work one day, and, a car pulled out in front of me, and I got in a car accident, and at that very moment, I, you know, had a conversation with God, uh, just apologizing for waiting so long to get concluded it was time to move on. And, sometimes it's pretty difficult to listen to that inner voice, especially when we know it means that we may have to make some changes in our lives. It may mean that we may have to say goodbye to some relationships. It may be, not necessarily a job change, but maybe a change in our perspective on how things are going in life and how we can live our lives to the fullest. So today, we're gonna explore perspective because I think, um, this word may give us just a little bit more insight about just how it impacts how we live our lives day to day. Okay. Comments. All right. Now, perspective. Perspective is a way of thinking about and understanding something. In psychology today, it says it's a mental framework through which individuals view the world around them. Perspective influences our daily interactions and decision-making processes. Our viewpoint our viewpoint acts as a lens that colors our experiences, guiding our emotional responses and behaviors. That's pretty typical. Perspective is pretty much our point of view. Um, it's not something that we're born with, but it influences us throughout our lives. It's influenced by our level of education, our age, ethnicity, gender experience, health experience, religious and faith backgrounds, and it really creates the way we look at the world. Perception, on the other hand, is like being given a set of prescription glasses that only you see through. There's only one pair of those glasses. The majority of people are not aware that their prescription is different to those around them. So this self-awareness is crucial and acts as a filter system that is selective and helps to shape how we see the world and our point of view. So one reason that I picked this topic is because I can see in myself and in others how we struggle. And I also, just look at how the same things can be happening to me and to someone else, and how much we may handle them differently, not in a judgmental way, but I'm just noticing. And so I just wanted to give you just something to think about when challenges do come up, and also just an awareness that the way we see things isn't necessarily always the only way. I think in our mind, I think we know it, but in the moment, sometimes it's hard to accept that other people see things in a different way, especially when we uh, believe in them strongly. But the more, yes, I don't want to say mature, but the more we are courageous in listening to other people's perspectives, I think the more we can grow to understand where people are coming from, and not be judgmental, but we can be critical, without being judgmental. Anyway, so I wanted to give you just some examples of how we perspective fits into our as we deal with daily challenges. For example, when I look at failure, on one hand, failure can mean that I failed, but in another perspective, you can say, "Well, I tried, and I can try again." Um, if you're having a really bad day, well, yes, you can acknowledge that you're having a bad day, but we also know that every day won't be a bad day, and there's something, we have the opportunity to find something good in that rough day. When we're working on things, trying new things, when we are called to be more than who we are now, and we don't know where to start, we can say, "Oh, this is impossible. There's no way I can do this." But another perspective is, I'm gonna take one step today toward my goal, toward my dream, and another step tomorrow, and another step the next day. And so what looked like an impossible thing now is a possibility. There's a line that I read the other day that said, "A person who draws a single line is more likely to draw a second." In other words, someone who is willing to start to move, to do something new, to challenge themselves, um, to grow in the direction of their dream. Somebody who's willing to take that first step is more likely to take the second step than somebody who's gonna let the overwhelming situation of newness, give them the perspective that this is impossible. I can't do this now. That taking that one step is crucial. Maybe you don't realize how far you've come because, you know, you keep raising the bar. In other words, sometimes, taking that first step, um, means that you've changed. Like, before you weren't ready, you didn't think it was possible, and so you took that first step. I think about folks who get their perfect job. Their perfect job or their perfect relationship, and for years, things are going well, and then you realize that something isn't quite right, and it may not be that discomfort isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it may be an indication that you've grown. You've grown out of the way that job is or out of the way the relationship is. It doesn't mean you have to throw in the towel, but it may mean you need to reassess and figure out new ways to be you. So there comes a time when experience in life changes one's perspective. I think this can be a good thing, especially when it results in positive growth in the mind and spirit. For me, as I get older, I find that things that I used to get worked up about don't matter, don't bother me as much. It's not because they're not important, but I'm able to see what I couldn't see before. So that's it for today. A little jumbled, a little techie issues, but I'm just glad that you were able to be with me. Uh, just give yourself some grace. I would say you're you're doing great. You are showing up in spaces where it's not always easy to show up, in environments and in just overall situations with how the world is, and you're showing up, and that's something to be celebrated. I often talk about having an attitude of gratitude, and it's difficult to do that when you're in the midst of trial, but, I hope and pray that that piece of advice, of encouragement will help you to change your perspective, especially when, uh, when times are difficult, and, hopefully that'll bring you some light and, um, be something that can help you make it through your day. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you have a great week, and, I will always remind you just to unleash your brilliance, uncover your light. The world is waiting for you. Take care.